right now before you go out and face this world, because there's going to be a lot of challenges, right, that you're about to face. And all of them have significant consequences.
The tea is boiling hot in this week's episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville. So grab your popcorn, pour a drink, and settle in, because things just went from dramatic to explosive. Fans thought the storm had passed, but what just dropped has shaken the entire community of viewers. Jaylen's unexpected revelations about Maurice hit harder than anyone could have imagined. Just when it felt like the dust was finally settling, this bombshell ripped through the storyline, leaving fans gasping. There was no sugarcoating, no polite dancing around the truth. What we saw was raw emotion, words spilling from years of silence, and the kind of confession that cuts straight to the heart. This wasn't a scripted argument. This was a son confronting a man he once looked to for guidance. The themes here are painful: favoritism, emotional neglect, and a young man's heartbreaking admission that he never felt fully loved. And when Jaylen spoke his truth, it was like a nuclear blast across the fandom.
It was hella disrespectful, and it doesn't protect me. And now I have to answer questions from my mother?
Yeah, I didn't think about the collateral damage. To me, it was like, if I just apologize to my wife.
So now you gotta apologize to my mother.
It all began innocently enough. Jaylen, usually reserved and calm, finally decided to open up during a sit-down with Maurice. What started as a conversation quickly grew heavy. Jaylen pulled from years of frustration and disappointment, putting into words emotions he had carried in silence for too long. He reminded Maurice of those days when they all lived under the same roof. Whenever Maurice entered a room and something needed to be done, Jaylen was always the one expected to act. Meanwhile, Monster, Maurice's biological son, would remain seated, glued to his video games, untouched by responsibility. Jaylen remembered glancing over in disbelief, silently asking, "Really? He just gets to sit there while I'm the one being called out?" And here's the kicker. Maurice would check Jaylen for not moving quickly enough, but never once demanded the same effort from Monster. For anyone watching at home,
Amy is doing as admirable as a spouse. To roll over and suffer through it, I look at it as her standing by me while I'm standing by her. There's a difference between wants and needs. I'm a person who actually needs sex, not a person who wants sex.
Why do you need sex?
I need sex like Carlos needs mess.
it was a familiar sting. Many of us know what it feels like to carry expectations, while others coast by without consequence. That's why Jaylen's words cut so deeply, because they echoed experiences that so many have lived. But the most devastating blow came when Jaylen looked Maurice in the eye and confessed that he never felt loved by him the way Monster was loved. The words weren't dramatic exaggeration. They came from a place of deep pain. His voice carried the weight of honesty, the ache of someone who had longed for recognition but never received it. Instead of sitting with Jaylen's truth, Maurice did what many accused him of doing too often. He deflected. Rather than acknowledging Jaylen's pain, he brushed it off, making it seem as though Jaylen was simply being overly sensitive. But this wasn't about sensitivity. This was about reality, and watching it unfold felt uncomfortable, even humiliating. Gaslighting has no place when someone is pouring out their hurt. The fans caught every second of it, and they weren't about to let Maurice slide. The moment the episode aired, the internet lit up like fireworks on the 4th of July. Instagram comment sections overflowed. Twitter threads stretched for miles. TikTok videos popped up left and right. Everyone had something to say, and the verdict was clear. Jaylen deserves better. But Maurice wasn't the only one catching heat. Kimmy, who once stood as the voice of reason and the level-headed favorite among fans, found herself under fire as well. Viewers couldn't ignore the pattern. Monster had often been portrayed as entitled and shielded from accountability, while Jaylen carried the weight of responsibility alone. Kimmy once admitted she didn't discipline Monster because she didn't feel it was her role, while Maurice was too caught up in other pursuits to step up as a parent. The result? Jaylen, the outsider, bore the emotional labor of being the adult in the room. Fans weren't having it. They started asking, "Kimmy, what happened to you? Where's the woman who used to balance the room with wisdom?" That respect began to crumble further when she used her reunion spotlight to attack Melody about cosmetic surgery instead of addressing the serious issues in her own household. And now, people are saying she allowed Maurice to bring his son into her home, dump the parenting on her, and silently watch her own child be emotionally sidelined. It doesn't look strong. It doesn't look wise. It looks careless. In one of the episode's most striking moments, Jaylen admitted that he often felt Marceau showed him more support and respect than Maurice ever did. Imagine that, a nephew feeling closer to an uncle than his own stepfather. That statement hit hard, and viewers shouted at their screens. Maurice's face said it all. He was shaken. Yet, once again, instead of acknowledging the pain, he tried to deflect. But this wasn't the time for excuses. This was the moment to listen, to accept, to begin healing. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. And this brings us to the question on everyone's mind, Carlos King. Where are you? While you're busy recapping Real Housewives of Atlanta, your own show is burning down with unaddressed drama. Fans want you back in Huntsville because this storyline is spinning out of control. This could be the darkest season yet, but handled correctly, it could also be the most meaningful. These aren't surface-level squabbles. This is about real pain, real consequences, and real family dynamics. The way it's portrayed matters, not just for ratings, but for the legacy of the show. Some wondered if Jaylen's outburst was staged for shock value, but according to production insiders, it wasn't planned. This wasn't a scripted moment. It was authentic. Years of bottled-up emotion spilled out in front of the cameras, and Maurice never saw it coming. Rumors say Maurice believed his bond with Jaylen was fine, that there was mutual respect. But that's the danger of emotional distance. You think everything's okay until the truth erupts and you realize the foundation was cracked all along. That very night, Jaylen posted on Instagram, "Love isn't enough sometimes. Just vibes." No tags, no explanation. Fans flooded the comments with encouragement, prayers, and emotional emojis. Messages poured in. "We see you, Jaylen. You're not alone. You deserve love." It was one of those rare moments when reality TV merged with real life. Viewers didn't just watch, they felt it in their own hearts. The previews for upcoming episodes hint at even more tension. Maurice appears to offer an apology, but it feels shallow, and Jaylen doesn't buy it. Meanwhile, Monster's body language screams entitlement, further straining the already fragile family dynamic. And just when it seems like the drama can't get any thicker, rumors swirl that Keela may enter the scene to stir things up. For those unfamiliar, Keela is one of the few people who can challenge Kimmy head-on. And according to whispers, she's had enough of the performance and is ready to call out the truth. If that happens on camera, expect fireworks. Imagine Keela confronting Kimmy about Monster, Jaylen, and Maurice all in one explosive sit-down. That's television gold. But let's step back for a moment. Beyond the ratings and the drama, what does all this mean? It highlights a real and painful issue in blended families: favoritism. It shows that emotional harm isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's the child who gets overlooked, the one who smiles through the pain until they can't anymore. That's Jaylen. He became the face of the forgotten child, and his breaking point reminded viewers that neglect can wound just as deeply as outright conflict. The fallout isn't just shaking the family, it's catching the attention of the network. Reports suggest OWN executives are growing uneasy about the emotional strain on younger cast members. Discussions are underway about an intervention, and some even hint at a possible spin-off to give Jaylen space to tell his story away from the toxicity. If that happens, clear your schedule, because fans will be glued to their screens. So here we are, one family cracked wide open, one fan base on fire, and one storyline that may change the entire course of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Maurice is truly sorry? Will Kimmy ever step up and hold him accountable? Should Jaylen distance himself to protect his peace? And what will happen when Monster realizes how Jaylen really feels? If you thought this episode was wild, just wait. The next one is going to leave us all speechless. Stay locked in, sweetie, because this story is far from over. And don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss a second of the drama.